about trying to get your website set up so that it's found in more places online. Obviously today is going to be kind of a short training, but also complex to some extent. So I think right off the bat, one of the things I always try to explain to people is you may have some preconceived thoughts on the ways you want to do things with your website and ways you want to market your business. But at the end of the day, the reality is we have to follow the rules that Google has written, because Google itself has become so large and so powerful that pretty much 90% of anyone going on the internet and searching for something is going on to Google, okay? So there's a lot of things that you got to be careful of, but what I've tried to highlight today are a few things to kind of get you going in the right direction. So first off, everyone thinks about what I would call search engine optimization. Search engine optimization is basically determining where your website comes up, when somebody searches on Google, right? They go to Google and they certainly type in, New York City, I'll just type in something real quick, New York City pizza, right? And, who comes up first on Google? How did these guys come up first? So it's all based on a big formula, right? That is called your search engine optimization formula. And it's kind of based on these 5 key things. And we're going to go through those today. So right off the bat, if you have a website, you have to make sure that it's set up behind the scenes. So what that means is behind the scenes, kind of in the guts of the website, there's going to be some specific keywords and tags that are in your website. Now, obviously, if you have a website through me, I've taken care of that. I mean, that's really for your webmaster to handle, okay? The second thing you want to have set up is you want to make sure that wherever your website is hosted, it's actually being kind of sent out, transmitted from your server to the search engines. Now, obviously, Google is the main one, but obviously there's about 35 search engines. That's called that your website is actually being crawled. It's being spidered by the search engines. People will call it indexing. Without being too technical, it means that your website is constantly being reviewed by the search engines, and if you're making changes, your website is being submitted to the search engines because changes have been made. Again, this is something I handle for all my clients, but something that your webmaster is probably going to do. Those become part of probably about 40% of all search engine optimization. And if you think back to like 2005 or 2000, those are really all that you had to do. I mean, it was really pretty simple. Well, things have come a long way in the last 10 years, and Google has evolved the way that it's ranking websites and it's listing websites. So, what kind of has evolved is obviously social media, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more depth. You have to be active on social media. Now you also have to set up your website on other, we'll call them mini websites or profile listing websites. Google actually has a few. There's actually a Google Business, a Google Maps, and I'm going to go through in a few minutes how to go through that. And then obviously the guys who are really good with SEO, they have figured out ways to get their website listed on, their partners' websites. So obviously if you're selling insurance, maybe you can get yourself listed on your alliance partner accountant website. He refers you for insurance and you refer him for accounting, stuff like that. I mean, that goes a long way to increasing your SEO. So let's kind of talk a little bit about social media, and then we'll talk about setting up some of these other listings, and then obviously get into a little bit more detail on getting your website on other people's websites. But I think my key is these are the keys today that we're going to go through, and these are the important factors that everyone with a website really should consider doing. So with social media, and obviously you guys know this because you come on my trainings, you understand the importance of it. But the reality, and when I say the reality, again, I'm just going to refer back to the rules that Google has written. At the end of the day, it's so important to understand that there are rules. And if you want to play your own game and not follow them, there's consequences to occur with Google. So one of the things that Google did was back in July of 2013, they made a big change. They came up with a thing called the social activity ranking. And now it's about 35% of SEO, okay? So what does that mean in layman's terms? It means if you have a website, Google wants you to have a social media presence. Not only do they want you to have a social media presence, they want to see activity on that social media presence. They want to see that you're posting content, good content, right? They want to see that you're getting new connections, growth to the pages, and they want to see that people are leaving reviews and testimonials for your business. Think about it logically, guys. Google has, let me rewind. Let's think about it logically. Google wants to have the best listing that there is. They want to list the best companies first. In their mind, the best companies are working hard, and they're doing the little things right. And they have a lot of clients. So social media becomes a great way to judge you, because if you're doing the little things right, you're educating your clients by posting. You're going to have a lot of clients who are connected to you, and you're going to have a lot of reviews from your clients. Google loves social media because they can get a really good look at your company from it. So my point is that it's going to be held against you if you want to ignore social media and not use it and not grow it. Google will look at it and say, I'm going to rank someone who's got more of this, higher than you because you're not doing it. So that's just something to keep in mind. This has been going on now for about 2 years, or about a year and a half. But it does hurt you if you don't use social media. The next thing that you want to do, and this is probably one of the first things you'd want to do if you got a new website, is you want to get yourself set up on a lot of these free listings. The first one is absolutely the most important. It's what's called the Google Business Profile. And I always get people asking me, how do I get myself on the map on Google? No one's finding me on the map. Well, it's because you haven't created a Google business listing. So what you want to do is just go to Google and type in Google Business Listing. And the first thing that should come up is this Google My Business. And the address should be google.com/business. So if you click on that, what it's going to do is it's going to say, hey, you want to get yourself listed on Google in our map directory and business listing, you can create an account. Now, just to clarify, guys, because I don't want to confuse you, this is totally different than what I was talking about up here. This is totally different than having your website submitted. This is totally different than having keywords and tags. This is a special directory that Google has kind of evolved with over the last few years. To be honest, most of you probably over the last 15 years created one. I get a lot of people calling me up saying, I found my listing and all the information is wrong. And I kind of scratch my head and say, well, there's nothing I can do to help you. The listing is just like anything else. There's a login and a password. So one of the things I'm going to suggest is if you don't have a listing and you come up here and you click Get on Google, make sure you do a really good job at writing down the username and password, because this is going to be important later on. So, so what you can do, or what Google kind of requires, is first they want to see if you're actually listed. So they'll make you enter, they'll make you enter your address, I believe, into the address bar here. And I'm just going to kind of type one of my old companies and see if it comes up. They'll make you type your address in, and if they don't find you on here, you can see we could not find any listings, then you can obviously create an account. And boom, here I'm going to type in my business name, and now all of a sudden you're creating a profile, I guess is my point. Now, the one thing, and it's real easy. You create a profile, and then it will actually let you add your logo and make it look really nice. But here's the thing, and here's the thing that screws up like 70% of my clients. It's not instantaneous It's not instantaneous. What Google is going to do is they're going to actually send a postcard in the mail to your address that you're putting in there. And on that postcard is going to be a verification code. And it takes like 10 days to get the code. Again, 70% of my clients, they get all pumped. I tell them to do this. I say, go in here. This is the first thing you should do. They go in, they set up the listing, and then they totally forget about it, and then they get the card in 10 days. It looks like junk mail, and they throw it out. And what ends up happening is they don't get listed because Google you haven't verified it. So my point today is if you do go and set up one of these Google listings, which I would highly suggest, take your time, put it in, make sure you remember what login and password you set up, write it down, be diligent, and then set up a reminder on your calendar. They'll probably tell you it's going to take 5 to 10 business days. I think it does take about 6, 7, 8 business days. So put a reminder in a few days to keep a lookout for this card. Because once you get the card, then you can go back to Google, go back to the listing, and you enter the number. And now all of a sudden you're on there. So I know that sounds crazy and a pain in the butt, but I feel like it prohibits like 80% of the people from actually setting up listings because they forget to do it or they just, they're not organized. So I would highly suggest doing that. The next thing I would do is you can do the same thing for Yahoo and Bing. They have their own business listings. All you have to do is you can just go right to Google again and type in, like I typed in Google business listing, just type in Bing business listing. And it's the first thing that'll come up, Bing places for your business, and click Get Started and set up an account. Obviously, the most important thing you can do is to list your website on these things. If you don't list your website, there's no point. So make sure you put your address, your phone number, your website, a good summary about what you do. And, if you set up all those things, it's going to help over time. Absolutely, it's going to help. The second thing you may want to do is there are a few really good listings that are free. And make no mistake, Google is free, Yahoo is free, Bing is free. There are companies called Manta and Yelp. Now, let me warn you, when you set up a free profile, and it's Yelp.com, Manta.com. When you set up a free profile, they probably are going to at least email you, if not call you, and try to get you to do the pay version. Absolutely not. It's not worth it. It's no different than the free version. Do not pay these people any money. On the flip side, there is value to having a free listing. So I would suggest going on there and creating another free listing. Time frame, it's probably going to take 10 minutes per listing. So, it's going to take some time to set up these things, but there is value there. So maybe you want to do it when you have a little bit of free time, and it will help in the long run. The final thing that is really the best thing, people always ask me, how do I get on the first page of Google? How do I really dominate? And it's so hard, to be honest, because there's so much competition. It's really almost impossible to some extent, especially if you're in a large industry like the insurance industry, the accounting industry. Very tough, so much competition. But one of the things that can give you a huge edge is called getting a reciprocal listing. So in layman's terms, like I said before, let's say you're an insurance agency and you have a lawyer and an accountant that you refer business with. Okay, they're your buddies, they're your alliance partners. They refer you business, you do the same. It makes a tremendous amount of sense to get a little blurb put on their website and vice versa. So maybe on your website you have a page called Alliance Partners, and you have the lawyer and the accountant. And then on the accountant's website, he's got the Alliance Partners, and he's got the lawyer and the accountant. You know what I'm saying? Very, very important. On the flip side, very, very hard to accomplish, because anytime you're dealing with 3 different people and 3 websites, probably the guy who's the lawyer, maybe his cousin built the website and he hasn't talked to his cousin because there's a family problem. You know what I mean? It doesn't get done. But if you can get it done, it will bring big value. It'll bring big SEO value, and it will bring traffic. It's amazing how much traffic you can get when you're on someone else's site and you're called, recommended partners. On the flip side, you've got to be careful with this. You do not want to list more than 15 partners, because then you get flagged as what's called a link farm. And I don't want to get too technical, but back, about 10 years ago, people would create these sites with literally thousands of referral sites. And, it was like a trade. You put my link on your site, I'll put your link on your site. They really didn't know anybody, and Google caught on to that. and they flagged it. So if you're kind of deemed to be one of those people where you have hundreds of links on your site, it'll kill your SEO and you'll be pretty much blacklisted. You want to just put legitimate partners, and hopefully you get yourself listed on legitimate partner sites. Again, hard to do, going to take a little work, going to take a few conversations, but worth it, absolutely worth it. And if you get to that point, give me a call. I'll help you. I'll build the page for you. It's no big deal. I think it would be a great addition to your site. So again, I try to keep it quick, guys, but I think today's main focus is to understand that there are a few things you want to be doing externally with your website. One, you want to make sure that it's set up correctly. And if I've built the site, it is. Two, you want to make sure you're active with social media. Three, you want to make sure you go into some of these free listings, Google Business, Bing Business, Yelp, Manta. Set up some profiles for that stuff. It's going to help. And then finally, make sure you have, if possible, an Alliance Partners link on your site. Get your site listed on other people's sites. That's free traffic. It's referral traffic. It's excellent traffic. It's what you want. It will help you get more traffic. Appreciate your time. As always, talk to you next time.